Why is it so hard to be nice to yourself? Why is it so hard to give yourself the love and kindness and grace that you so graciously give to other people? If this is something you struggle with, then in today's episode, we are going to talk about why self-compassion is so hard, but we're also going to talk about how you can overcome it, because the same love and energy and kindness that you give to other people, you deserve to give to yourself. If you're new here, my name is Ladette. Welcome to the Be Affirmation podcast. Here we talk about positive self-talk, leveling up, kindness, and just having so much love for yourself. So I'm going to have all of the chapters here for you. If you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, I will have it in the description so you can kind of sift through and listen to whatever it is that you need to hear today. So first, let's talk about what self-compassion is. It's being nice to yourself. It's giving yourself the grace to make mistakes. It's allowing yourself to not always be great at everything. It's telling yourself, hey, it's okay. Maybe today wasn't the best day, but that's okay. It's literally forgiving yourself and treating yourself the way that you would treat your best friend or maybe siblings, not a great example, because sometimes we're like meaner to our siblings out of love though. So maybe not sibling, but when you think about like your best friend and the way you would show up for them, having self-compassion is what you would do for them for yourself. And it just feels good, right? It's like giving yourself permission to make mistakes and being okay with that and still loving yourself through it. And maybe you're wondering why, like, okay, Ladette, why should I care about having self-compassion? Why is self-compassion important? Why should I have self-compassion? It's because it literally influences every aspect of your life, like your relationships, your mental health, your well-being, the type of career that you pursue, and in general, what you allow to happen in your life. Like, anyone can benefit from having self-compassion. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what gender you identify as. It doesn't matter what age you are. Anyone here can have self-compassion and benefit from it in every aspect of their life. And it's completely worth pursuing. It literally doesn't matter what age you are. Or if you feel like it's too late for me, like I just have horrible self-esteem, like I'm never going to be able to like give myself the kindness that I give to others. I encourage you to adapt a new belief, because if you want to be kinder to yourself, if you want to have more compassion for yourself, you can learn how to do that. You can learn at any age. Learning doesn't stop. It doesn't matter what the topic is. Like, we can learn how to do things at any age. It's never too late. But if you feel like it is, you're already creating that narrative. Create a new one. And if it's any incentive, like, I kind of want to talk about a couple things that having self-compassion allows for you. Like, there's gifts that you can give yourself from having self-compassion. One of them is just emotional resilience. And that just is like, say you mess up, right? Or say you didn't do something great. Having emotional resilience might look like you telling yourself, you know what? It's all good. I'll do better next time. Or maybe things just turn into like a complete shit show in your life, but you tell yourself, you know what? It's all good. I'll bounce back. I'll bounce back. It's okay that things didn't work out this time. It's fine that things didn't happen the way I wanted. It's all good. And an example that I want to give y'all, because this happened to me like not too long ago, in April, I sprained my ankle. And I was initially so upset because I was training for my first ever marathon. And I was so excited because I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never done a marathon. Like, this is going to be such a great challenge. Like, I'm going to be so proud of myself. I'm pushing myself way harder in the gym for something. And I just was looking forward to it. And I sprained my ankle and I was upset. Initially, I was like, man, like I know I'm not going to be able to do the 5K now. And I was a part of a team. So there was 5 of us and we all had a leg that we were going to take. And so I knew that by me spraining my ankle, someone else was going to have to fill in my spot. And initially I was like, man, like, oh man, like now I'm going to have to break the news. But instantly I was like, you know what though? It's okay. Yeah, it wasn't ideal to sprain my ankle. I was literally on my bed for like the entire weekend and I couldn't really walk on it for like 2 weeks. I was in crutches, and then I wasn't in the gym for like 6 weeks, and that was the hardest part. But I told myself, hey, you know what, maybe this is just the universe wanting me to slow down, because I have been go, and I have been stressed, and I have been like definitely working myself more than I deserve to be. Like, it's okay for me to take breaks, and maybe this happened for a reason, and that's okay. An example of emotional resilience: if I I could have taken that so many other ways. I could have been negative about it. I could have been like, poor me, my life sucks. Like, or like, oh my God, Ladette, like you seriously tripped. Like, how did you trip outside? Like, were you not paying attention to where you were walking? Like, my mind didn't even go there at all. My biggest thing was just like, oh man, like I'm gonna have to tell the group that they have to find a replacement. I was not mean to myself though. And that is such a great example of practicing self-compassion, because it's like, you know what? It's okay. I tripped, I hurt myself, I need to slow down, and that's completely okay. So having emotional resilience and in general self-compassion goes such a long way, because you just bounce back so much quicker, and things don't drag you down or keep you in a funk as long as they potentially could have you not been practicing your self-compassion. If the first example wasn't an incentive enough, I really hope this one is. But when you practice self-compassion, you actually improve all of your relationships. So when you're nice to yourself, and when you accept, yourself for who you are, and you know your worth, you just know your worth, right? And so when you start to know your worth, you know exactly how you want to be treated by other people, because you're treating yourself the way you like to be treated. So if someone comes into your life, relationship, friendship, whatever, and they're not meeting that expectation, it's so much easier to walk away. It's like when you start loving yourself and being kinder to yourself, you set the bar so much higher. And if you're already doing something for you that someone else can't do, why you don't need them. You literally, there's no reason for them to be in your life. And I really like this for relationships specifically, because I think it's something that a lot of us have experienced, including myself, but where you're in a relationship and you're dependent on that person to do certain things for you and to love you the way you deserve and whatnot, but then they're not, showing up or meeting that need. But then because you're so attached, you don't want to leave them. Versus when you start building this self-compassion, this self-love, self-worth, if someone isn't treating you the way you deserve to be treated, it's so much easier to let them go, because you're like, wait, I treat myself better than you're treating me. Like, what? No, I don't I don't want this in my life. Like, bye. Another really important thing about having self-compassion is that you honestly just less and less and less stop saying mean things to yourself. Like, how often in a day can you imagine you have negative thoughts? Or like, how often do you say like, oh, I suck at this, or I'm bad at this, or like, I can't believe right? Like, just those negative recurring thoughts. The more you practice self-compassion, the more you say nice things to yourself, the quieter and quieter and quieter that inner critic gets. And that inner critic can get in the way of a lot of things, okay? That inner critic can keep you from living your dream life, from attracting, your dream partner, your dream career, because that inner critic is the same voice that tells you you can't have something. And the more you believe you can't have it, guess what? Well, there's no possibility for it to happen. But when you can quiet that inner critic, the biggest shift that I've noticed in me is just that when you quiet that inner critic, you start to have a little bit of hope. And even if you're someone who's like, oh, I don't know if this can happen, a little bit of hope is way better than no hope at all. A little bit of that feeling of like, wait, can I become someone who loves themselves? Can I become someone who goes after their dreams? Maybe I can. And that makes all the difference. And then you just like, it creates this space where you can start believing in yourself to be, the person that you are deep down. When you have self-compassion, it allows you to have boundaries, like, because you love yourself so much and you care about yourself so much that when something is off, whether it be something in a relationship or work, whatever, literally, you know how to communicate your boundaries because you love yourself that much. And if you're someone who struggles with setting boundaries, a great place to start is self-compassion, because from there, that's where you're going to learn, what do I deserve? Right? When you're nice to yourself and when you can take a step back and you can stop judging yourself and make it a practice to love yourself even through your mess ups, eventually over time that builds the skill of knowing your worth, but also knowing how to communicate that with other people. Because once you start treating you better, everything changes. Everything changes around you in the best way possible. Yes, maybe there's some people that gotta go as a result, but that's a good change in my opinion, because it creates space for the people who are supposed to be in your life that are gonna add positivity and love to come find you. And the last incentive that I have to give to you guys for why self-compassion is important is just like your overall happiness and well-being. Like, when you can sit there and just normally be nice to yourself, when you can sit there and take breaks, when you can sit there and say, hey, I'm doing a great job today, over time, like that shifts how you feel about you, and it makes you a happier version of you. It's like there's this version of you that says mean things to yourself all the time, and then there's this version of you who meets yourself with understanding. Which one of these do you think has a more harmonious, peaceful, balanced life? Obviously this version. So this is just anyone, I'm telling y'all, anyone can benefit from practicing self-compassion. And it's something that just resonates so much with me, because the relationship you have with yourself is the most important one, and you're the only person who's ever going to be inside your own mind living with the thoughts that you have. So make them as nice and as positive as you can, y'all. Like, please, it just makes life so much more meaningful, and it makes it so much better and like so much more worth it. So we talked about why having self-compassion is important. I also really want to address the challenges and obstacles that can make developing self-compassion so hard, because it is. It's a hard thing to do, to learn how to be nice to yourself, but it's not impossible. So I want to talk about what makes it difficult, and then I want to offer some solutions, things that I have tried myself to help you get started on this journey of having self-compassion. So I know I briefly mentioned it, but y'all, I had to put inner critic at the top of the list, okay? Your inner critic, wow, so powerful. That little voice that says you can't do it, or they'll never like you, or you'll never be good enough, or you can't get that job, or it's never going to happen in your favor, or you're so bad at this. That inner critic, that just is, it's just mean and nasty, and it doesn't feel good. And you know it's your inner critic when it don't feel good. When it's degrading you, when it's negative, when it's making you feel bad, that's your inner critic. And this is a hard one to tackle. And I really sympathize with anyone who struggles with their inner critic. My inner critic was wild, especially middle school, elementary school. And that can be a video topic for another day, because I truly have so much I can share about my inner critic. But the biggest thing with your inner critic is understanding where it comes from. If you want to push through that voice that tells you you can't or you'll never be good enough, you have to meet it where it's at and understand why. Why do I think this? Because all these things we tell ourselves stemmed from somewhere. And normally it's from our childhood. Either something someone said, did to us, or the way we perceived an event that happened and we internalized it. A lot of this is stuff that we have just kept and we haven't worked through. So if you have a strong inner critic, I encourage you to write down, like, when you find those instances of like you saying harsh things to yourself, write it down and like work through that. Like, where did this come from? And you know what, y'all, I think what I'm gonna do, because I was gonna make these two parts, and maybe I still will, because I feel like I don't want to combine them too much, because I wanted to do problems and then solutions, but I might mix it as I'm talking about it. So I apologize if I do, but I'll still talk about solutions and make it separate. But because I know I just offered a solution, but just meet your inner critic where it's at and ask, where are you from? Why do I have this belief? What influenced me to have this belief? And then you just kind of peel back of like, how long have I been believing this? Or, why did I internalize it this way? And now that I'm grown or I'm older, what really was the truth of that situation? And what really is my truth right now? And I really believe that that will help start this momentum of identifying these things you say, but meeting it with self compassion. Another problem that I see people experience a lot of times with men, I love you guys, and I am so sorry that you have been told and taught that you can't express your feelings or that it makes you weak. But this is one reason why people have such a hard time with self compassion, is because if I'm being nice to myself, I'm just being a little punk. Or if I'm being nice, that means I'm taking the easy way out, when it's like, no, you're not. When you're being nice to yourself, it that is an example of self-love, and that is an asset to have in a person, in your characteristic, in whatever. Like, it's okay to express yourself, it's okay to be nice to yourself. There's literally nothing wrong with that. Something that I have definitely struggled with myself is comparing myself with other people. And I really see this as something that other people struggle with too, when it comes to being nice to yourself, because you can easily sit there, especially on social media, and see someone you went to school with or someone you used to work with, and they're seemingly doing so much better than you. And then it's like, gosh, like, oh, why I'm a failure, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you don't know what other people are going through at the end of the day. People don't always showcase every aspect of their life, quite frankly. People, what is that? There's that phrase that like Instagram's like a highlight reel or something, where it's like people normally only share all the great things that are happening and all the positive things, not all the like harsh, bad, sad, negative things happening in their life. So don't ever compare yourself to someone else. You don't know what they're experiencing or going through. And you having self-compassion has nothing to do with them anyway. Like, if you need to take a break today, take a break. If you feel like you've been working hard and you want to treat yourself, go treat yourself. If you want to do nothing, do nothing. If you want to have a spa day, have a spa day. Like, self-compassion is about you meeting yourself where you're at and giving yourself what you need. And it has nothing to do with other people. It's all about you. This might be a really sensitive one, but another thing that can make having self compassion hard are traumatic experiences or just negative past experiences. Maybe someone said something mean to you growing up, and so now you just adapted that belief and that mentality about yourself. But this is where reflection is so important. Kind of like what I mentioned earlier, of just like asking yourself, where does this come from? And I know that that can be scary, but this is where you take your power back, is by understanding, like, because it's basically a limiting belief as well, but like, where does this come from, and why do I believe this about myself? Why do I say these things about myself? Who said this to me, and what were they perhaps going through that made them be that way towards me? But yeah, sometimes past experiences can really get in the way, and this is where you try your best, but you also utilize whatever resources you have. If you have access to a therapist, or if that's someone who you can get access to go deeper into maybe some heavy traumatic things, then do that. And if you're someone who by no means maybe doesn't have the finances, or you don't feel like perhaps maybe you need therapy, find a support system. Like, at the end of the day, the biggest thing you can do for yourself is having someone you trust that you can lean on. And I know not everybody may feel like they do, but for this part of this video, I'm mentioning, if you have a support system, lean on that. And if you don't, find one. Find one. There's so many support groups online, so many support groups on Facebook. You can find some even on Instagram. They're there. There's events. You can go to an event if perhaps there's one in like nearby in your city. I always see these like fun events here in Denver of like yoga on the rocks or breathwork classes, meditation classes, and a lot of them are pretty cheap. Like, I've even seen them as low as $5. I'm not even kidding. So it's all about, what resources can you find? What resources do you have? And how are you utilizing them to find like-minded people, or people you can kind of just lean on for these moments, right? For working through maybe some traumatic things you have, because it helps to just let it out and it helps to face it. But I understand sometimes you might feel like you really need support to do that. So one other thing that I want to share really quickly when it comes to just some problems that people have is like, it's like resistance to change. As crazy as that sounds, because you might be thinking like, well, who doesn't want to have self-compassion? Who doesn't want to be nicer to themselves? And a lot of you, that would be a lot of you. And that was me for a hot minute. It's like, we go so long being a certain way, having these beliefs about our life, that when we get to a place where we're like, wait, I can change this, it's almost like, do I want to change it? Because for so long, you've created this narrative about who you are in your life, that now that it's like, wait, I can change this, it's all on me. Like, it makes it so easy for your ego to get in the way or make these excuses for why change can't be done, why change can't be possible, why you would never be able to be nice to yourself, why there's no way you'd be able to live the life of your dreams. It's crazy how when you start to decide that you want to love yourself, that you want to level up, that you want to live the life of your dreams, that you want to be the creator of your life, that you want to be in charge, what things your ego will try to do. And it can be so sneaky, but in what ways it'll get in the way, or it'll try to get in the way of you making that happen, whatever it is that you're wanting to make happen. Sometimes people just don't want to change. Sometimes people are literally self-sabotaging. Like, it could be an example or a case of self-sabotage where you want to be nicer to yourself, but you just aren't used to it, or that you just don't want to start, so you'll find reasons not to. And it sounds so crazy, but that is a reason why some people don't start this journey. But I believe if you're watching this episode on the podcasting platforms, or if you're watching on YouTube, I don't think that this would be you. I feel a person who is self-sabotaging wouldn't look up or click on a video that's all about having self-compassion. I feel like you're obviously here because you want to develop and cultivate more self-love, more self-compassion, all that. So congratulations, this part is not you. So those are just some things that I feel people struggle with when it comes to developing self-compassion. They are all things I have definitely struggled with at some points in my life. By no means are these all of the things. There's so many other reasons and factors and things that just come into play when it comes to being nice to yourself. But those are the ones that are coming up for me right now that I want to talk about and that I want to address. But I did mention that I wanted to do a separate section on just like where to start and how to overcome obstacles when it comes to having self-compassion. So let's get into that. So these are not going in any order, kind of just things that I would recommend doing when you can. You could make this into a routine. But one of them is definitely just like has to do with self-awareness. And more specifically, I would say is to journal. So anytime you have a thought that comes up where you're, I know I mentioned this earlier, but where you have your inner critic, it's coming out, it's telling you can't do something, or you're just having like negative thoughts in general, pause and like write it out. Okay, write it out and then write down what your actual truth is. So this might look like, maybe I'm gonna make something up. Maybe you're at work and you're having a bad day, and maybe you got something in late. You thought you had a deadline at 2 p.m., but it was really at noon, so you missed your deadline, and now you're just like, oh my God, like I always do this. I'm always late. I always just mess everything up. That would be a great opportunity to sit and pause and ask yourself, why am I saying this to myself right now? Like, where is this coming from? Why do I think I always mess things up? When was I a little kid and I messed something up and it like played a huge role in like my self-perception? And maybe, you can't pause what you're doing right away. Maybe, you have to wait till you go home or whatever. But this is where self-awareness comes into play, because even in that instance or another instance, you can still be like, oh, this is how I feel. I'm gonna come back to this. When I go home, I'm gonna write about this, or I'm gonna, talk it out with myself. That can be self-awareness too. But then keep that promise to yourself. Like if you can't pause in the moment as things are happening, make sure you keep your promise to yourself and do it later when you say you're gonna do it. Or on your days off, maybe you just cultivate like 10 minutes of your day to just sit with yourself, meditate for a little bit, and you just ask yourself, like, okay, what mean things do I feel like I say to myself? Like, what are some recurring thoughts I kind of normally have? And then work with that. Another thing you can try are guided meditations. So many on YouTube, they're free. You literally just type guided meditation for self-compassion. And I know you're going to be so overwhelmed with your options because there's so many, but pick the one that resonates with you. And what I love about guided meditations on YouTube is like, oh my God, you can find exactly what you're looking for. Maybe it's only a 5-minute thing you need, an hour, maybe it's an 8-hour one. Like my TV's there, that's why I'm looking at it, but every night I literally put on affirmations, and they're the ones that are like 8 hours. And I'll switch it up. Sometimes I'll do self-love meditations. I have in the past done ones for like overcoming addiction. And you may not know this about me, but like I did struggle with alcohol. Another video for another day. I actually I have a couple videos actually on my YouTube channel, so if anyone's interested, you could check those out. But I was playing those for a while. I was doing ones for self-esteem. I'm trying to think what else I've done. Ones for attracting a relationship, ones for forgiveness, ones for anxiety. There's just so many. So literally you can type on YouTube what you're looking for and listen to those meditations as many times as you need to. And what I love about meditations like these is that it kind of forces you to take a moment, and every guided meditation is different, but one that you might find yourself experiencing, because they're going to be similar themes, is like you're basically going to create time in your day for you to sit down, literally open your heart, say some nice things to yourself. Maybe it'll have you place your hand over your heart, and you're just gonna like connect to your feelings, and that feels good. And the more you do that, like the more you just tune in with yourself, the more you accept yourself, the more you just naturally say these nice things to yourself. And it's literally like a habit. Like when you do something every day or like very consistently throughout the week, in the span of a couple weeks, in a couple months, you start to become that thing. You start to be that thing. And oh my gosh, it's funny because I always say when it just happens and it flows, I like to plug in be affirmation, because it's like you get to be that thing. you get to become the affirmation, which is again what this podcast is about. It's being the nice things that you say to yourself. It's embodying that. And with consistency, you'll just see how things shift and change for you. And it's just, I think it's such a beautiful thing to see yourself change in just positive ways and to see your progress. And the best part is like with consistency over time, you'll catch yourself starting to say nice things to yourself. Like one day you might just be like, oh, you look cute today. And then you'll be like, did I just say that? Like, dude, that's crazy. But it's like, wow, it's working. So yeah, just some motivation for y'all that like you will notice a difference. And yeah, it makes me so happy for anyone who's like on this journey, and you guys got this. And also, before we move on, if you're enjoying the episode or the YouTube video, definitely give the video a like. If you're listening on the podcast, please share it with someone. Any engagement that you do with this podcast, with this YouTube video, it goes such a long way. Like YouTube looks at that. I don't know how the podcasting platforms work, but I know YouTube looks at it and it's like, ooh, people like this. Let's push it to more people. And I would love to reach as many people as I can. I would love to touch as many people in the world as I can. I feel it is my mission to make this a better place. So help me make my mission happen. Let's talk about creating a self-care routine. Your routine can look however you want it to, but have some sort of routine that you give yourself. It can be a couple minutes a day. Maybe it's in the morning when you start or in the evening when you're wrapping up, but just some sort of self-care routine, because this is going to teach you that it's important to you to take care of yourself. So even if you have a really busy day, even if you're just so tired or whatever, what is your self-care routine going to look like? Maybe it's just like, what are those things called? Like the massage rollers for your face. Like maybe you just like do that. If you're listening to the podcast, you're probably like, what the hell? But I'm like pretending like I'm like giving myself like a face massage. Maybe you just do that for 30 seconds. Like, and that's your self-care routine because it feels good. And by the time you're done, you literally go back or you lay in your bed just feeling so good and so relaxed. Make up whatever routine feels good to you. My routine, so in the morning I wake up, I wash my face, brush my teeth, do sun salutations. I realize I probably look crazy in these videos, but I love sun salutations because you can do like 3 rounds and it's basically just like, how many positions is it? You like breathe in, you stretch your back, and then you touch your toes, and then you do a plank. Am I doing this correctly? And then you do like the push up, and then you do the opposite of downward facing dog, and then you do camel, and then downward facing dog, and you can do as many like repetitions of that. I usually do 3 rounds, and then I go downstairs, I journal, and then usually that's like my main routine. If I have time, I'll go to the gym, and if I don't, I'll go later in the day. But normally my routine in the morning is like brush my teeth, wash my face, like do the sun salutations, journal, and I can do all that in like 20 minutes, which is for me perfect. Like all I need is 20 minutes. Sometimes I'll do meditation, sometimes I'll do breath work, sometimes I do that in the evening. But the point is like I got a self-care routine, and one thing about me is I'm going to do it. And if on those rare days that I miss it because maybe I woke up late or I'm in a rush, I'm doing it in the evening or I'm doing it at some point in the day, because for me, it just helps me reground. It's like things can be going so crazy throughout the day, but as soon as I like take a deep breath or I do my routine or whatever, it's just so grounding, and it sets the trajectory for the day. So make up whatever routine you need to, but have one. Just like do yourself the gift of taking care of yourself. That is where your self-compassion is going to stem from. If you have a self-care routine, it's just you just love yourself enough to take care of yourself. Do that for yourself. I know I kind of mentioned this earlier, but lean on your relationships. If you're having a bad day, if you're not feeling great, it's always nice to have people you can lean on. Even if you're a strong person, even if you're a high value individual. I did a video earlier this week on like traits of a high value woman, and I mentioned independence and being independent and thinking for yourself. But we are human, and it is okay to lean on our support system when we need that. So make sure you have your support system set in place. And again, if you don't have one, find them. You don't have to be alone forever, like the rest of your life. Like find your support system. I promise you, for everyone, there is a support system out there. So the next one that I want to mention is acknowledging your feelings. And I feel like this can go very well actually with the first tip earlier of just like when you have that inner critic and when that voice is coming out, journaling about it and understanding where it comes from. But it's like, in addition to that, it's like having self acceptance and like understanding those feelings and meeting them with kindness anyway. Because you can sit there and say like, "Oh my God, my inner critic just won't stop," and that wouldn't be meeting it with kindness. That would be judging your inner critic, and it stemmed from somewhere. Versus, you trying to understand it. Maybe it's like, maybe it looks like you asking your inner critic like, "Hey, why are we being mean to me today?" And then maybe you realize it's because, okay, someone said this to me and it hurt my feelings, and it makes me feel this way, and right, like that's acknowledging your feelings, and then meeting it with kindness might be saying, but that's not true. Like, I know that I'm a nice person, I know that I have a lot to offer the world, and just because someone doesn't see that in me doesn't mean that it's not there. So that would be meeting that inner critic with kindness. And that just gives you so much power back too, because it's like, it doesn't matter what anyone says to me, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks about me. Like, I love me, I like me, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Another thing y'all can do is embracing your imperfections. No one here is perfect. No one here is ever going to be perfect. So because we've gotten that out of the way, then it's okay for us to have imperfections and flaws. And what's awesome is your imperfection might be something someone else sees as an asset. And, the imperfection someone else thinks they have might be the thing you see as like an asset, or an amazing skill or whatnot to have. And so I think it just allows for a little bit of sympathy for us to have for ourselves, knowing that we don't have to excel at everything and that we're allowed to make mistakes. And that's also what having a growth mindset is. You don't have to be great at everything you do. You don't have to exceed the first time you do it. And when that doesn't happen, it's a perfect opportunity to take a step back and learn from it. Like, what can I get from this situation? What will I do differently next time? Like, it's having resilience and having a growth mindset, which is such an important skill to have, because let's be honest, things aren't going to always work out exactly the way you want. And when they don't, are you going to allow that to dictate the rest of your day, the rest of your week? It's okay to acknowledge your feelings, right? Okay, I had a bad day. It sucks I didn't do well at this thing, whatever. But are you going to let that dictate your entire day, your entire week, your entire month? No, okay? It's okay to be imperfect. Accept that about yourself. And the last thing that I want to say is celebrate your progress, okay? Give yourself the shout out when you deserve it. Give yourself the shout out every day. Okay, you deserve a shout out as often as you want to give yourself a shout out. Me, I typically say something nice to myself every day. I'm not gonna lie. Whether it be, "Oh, you look cute today," or, "Ooh, eyebrow's on point, girl," or, "Oh my God, you're getting stronger. Like, we lifted so much more today than we normally do." But I really make it a point to say nice things to myself because I love myself. And I don't force these either. Even though I typically do like a daily affirmation, or I just naturally am saying nice things to myself. Like, I don't know, it just comes so natural to me now. And there was a time where, yeah, kind of in the beginning, for sure, I had to force it, because in the beginning, it's awkward to say nice things to yourself. So you're kind of pulling things out of your ass. Um, but over time, you just do it. It's like, wait, I don't even have to think about this. Like, I'm nice, I'm awesome, I'm pretty, like, I'm kind hearted, like, I have aspirations and goals, like, I'm gonna achieve everything I know that I have in my heart. Like, you just believe in yourself. And that's why I just think it's so awesome to celebrate yourself, say nice things to yourself, because it maybe in the beginning feels weird, but over time it becomes so authentic, and it just creates so much confidence within yourself, because again, the relationship you have with you is the most important one you'll ever have. But when you can create and cultivate a positive relationship with you just see how all your other relationships, I'm telling y'all, how all your other relationships change. And it's just like, it's so rewarding. And it's like, it's just that reminder, like, even though I'm not doing it for anyone else, the fact that me pouring more love into me changes my reality for the better is such an incentive to keep going. The biggest one. So, yeah, guys, that's all I have. I know self compassion is not always an easy thing to do. It's not always easy to meet yourself with kindness, but I really believe that anyone listening, and anyone on planet Earth can learn how to have self compassion. They can learn how to be kind to themselves. They can learn how to extend the same kindness and love and gratitude that they give to others, best friends, sisters, brothers, family, to themselves. And that when they start to make that decision to cultivate that self-compassion, that their life will change for the better. I just 100% believe that if you're listening up until this point and you're ready to like go in on this self-compassion journey, I believe in you. I know it is going to change your life for the better. I 100% know that. I believe in you. And yeah, let me know down in the comments what you think about this episode. And also share your story and your journey. Like, pin this video, save this video, I don't know, and come back to it a month from now. Like, I would love to hear, how is it going? Like, how is this journey of self-love, self-compassion, positive self-talk? How is it going for you? Like, how is your life changing as a result of? Like, I would love to hear from you guys. Definitely like the video, that helps with the algorithms. And also make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're listening there, if you don't want to miss any other future posts. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!